You're smiling this morning. It's good to see.
Good morning. Hi. Good morning. My name is Risa Sloat, and I'm the Chief Operations Officer for the Little Wisco and Cumberland Plateau Health Districts, and I have with me Michelle McCarran, our Nurse Manager Senior, and Daniel Hunsucker, who's our Health Education Senior, and we're here to present a program about our comprehensive harm reduction. And we met with your County Administrator, Frida Starnes, it's been a few weeks ago, and before I start our program and share a little bit about what we want to share with you today, I want to take this opportunity, first of all, to thank you. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here, but thank you for your support through the COVID activities. I hate to say that word, the pandemic. It's almost a four-letter word, but we want to thank you for your support through all of that. You all were great community partners. The carport, I thank Frida so many times for the carport that you all purchased for us. Our nurses and our clerical staff and our team that have worked in that, thank you so much. They stood out through the weather and did testing and vaccines and so much. And when that carport came, I'm sure you heard them doing hallelujahs and shouting and saying thank you for that. And it meant more to them than words could express, that you all thought of them and chose to purchase that for them, and they thank you and we thank you for that, and that meant so much. So we just want to take that opportunity to say thank you for that, and we have utilized it a lot. We're getting ready to kick off our flu campaign, and so we're looking at doing some maybe drive-through events down the road, and I'm sure it will be used many more times. And so we just wanted to take that opportunity while we're here to say thank you for your continued support through the years, and since we've had this opportunity to be with you and meet you face to face. But we're here today to share a little bit about our comprehensive harm reduction program. We were the first in the state to have that program in Little Wisco. We started it in our WISE office in July. I was thinking it was July of 2017, and my comrades here said it was 2018. But we started that program in 2018 in our WISE office. And it was a risk. It was a huge risk. It's controversial. And it was a challenge, but we were the first in the state. And Dr. Sue Cantrell, that you may know, was our director at that time, was really passionate about the program and saw the need. She was instrumental in seeing so many addicts and seeing the mental health issues and seeing the diseases that came from that addiction and seeing the services that were needed from that. And so she really saw the desire and the passion that needed to happen for that to come to our area for a harm reduction program. And candidly, when she mentioned that program, I've always supported her. I've been with VDH for 23 years and had always supported her. And I thought, oh no, this is one time I'm not sure I can. And I'll share personally. I thought, what are we doing? Where is this program? And why this program? And we'll share a little bit about why this program and why we need to expand this program, but why it was needed. And I prayed about it. And I said, Lord, show me. I've always supported it. Help me to understand. And God answered that prayer. And my pastor got up and he preached a sermon. And his sermon was about meeting people where they are. And public health is really mission work every day. And we're seeing that more and more with the clients we serve. It's not the clients that when I started 23 years ago, it's not the same clients. They're more needy. Mental health issues, the services are different. Riskier services, family planning services, our children have needs. There's just greater needs, and we're seeing it more and more. So meeting people where they are is mission work. And so one of our missions is, in order to do the services, you have to kind of meet people where they are and to serve them where they are. And so the comprehensive harm reduction program has done just that. And and Dan will share a lot more. He's kind of our coordinator for that, and Michelle. And they'll share a lot about how that has not only met people where they are and providing safety, keeping needles off the street, but it has expanded those services. And that's what we want to do here in Scott County, in Duffield, partnering with Revita. And so Dan, you want to take over? And he has some handouts for you. And share a little bit about what the program does. And then we'll answer any questions.
While he's giving you the handouts, I just wanted to take a minute and give you just a little bit of background on some of the communicable diseases that we were seeing in our district prior to starting down the path of thinking about the comprehensive harm reduction program. Most of you probably know that our region has seen high rates of hepatitis C for quite a while, especially since we've seen an increase in substance use disorders. But beginning in about 2012 in our district in Linnawisco, which covers Scott, Lee, Wise, and City of Norton, we began to see an outbreak of hepatitis B in some of our communities. And so as we began to investigate those cases and kind of do the contact tracing and the follow-up with those, we just continued to find more and more and more cases. And what it really just boiled down to was they were related to substance use disorders. And so that was kind of a wake-up call for us, I think, because we knew hepatitis C was a problem, but we really hadn't had that huge of a problem with hepatitis B before. And then it wasn't long after that Scott County, Indiana had the outbreak of HIV related to substance use disorders. Many of you may have heard about that. And so it got us to thinking, about that possibility. Could that be a possibility as well? So we received some funding through NACHO, which is a federal public health program, in about 2016-17 to begin to do some activities around getting community input about substance use disorders and things that we need. We did a lot of town hall meetings. We did a tabletop exercise at Mountain Empire College that a lot of our communities participated in. And so out of that came the idea of the need for a comprehensive harm reduction program so that we could address how to try to make sure that we prevent the spread of those communicable diseases among this population, and also to provide some wraparound services just to improve their health in general and possibly connect them even with recovery services. So that's kind of the background of how it came about in Wise County, and I'll let Dan go ahead and speak to you.
So the biggest thing with a comprehensive harm reduction program, it is, like Michelle said, a lot of wraparound services. Part of that is a syringe exchange program. And a lot of people hear syringe, needle, and that's where they stop. This is not a drug prevention program. It is a hepatitis C and HIV prevention program. And along the way, we are working with people in active addiction. We build a relationship with them so when they reach the point in their life that they are ready to make a change, they have already developed a trustworthy connection, and they can come to us and they say, I'm ready to get into treatment. How do I do that? We have actually helped to facilitate getting people into treatment. We've taken people to centers, we've taken people and put them on airplanes to go to treatment before. People come in and out of our program for a variety of reasons. We have some success stories and we have some very heartbreaking stories. We see people from all walks of life, people that probably fit the most horrible stereotype in your mind, and then people whose personal story will absolutely break your heart. We have one individual who came to the program whose mother started shooting them up when they were 11 years old, and they did not have a chance of escaping the throes of addiction. And it's really people like that we want to work with and provide as many opportunities as we can for. There's nobody out there waiting for a clean syringe in order to inject. If you're addicted and you inject drugs, you're going to inject whether or not there's a clean syringe available. Used syringes, dirty syringes, found syringes. People will take the tube and point out of a ballpoint pen and even attempt to shoot up with that sometimes. And that can cause a lot of damage to their skin, their blood vessels. It can cause a lot more medical issues and put a lot more financial burden on the area as well. This is about making sure that if someone does this, they're going to do it as safely as possible. Safe for them, and as Risa said, safe for the community as well. We pride ourselves on our program, keeping it very clinical. We have a 96% return rate on the syringes that we send out. So that's syringes that are potentially infected with HIV and Hep C coming back to the program, that are not on the street, that are not waiting for someone to get stuck by, that are not putting your police officers at risk from getting stuck, because they are coming back into the program and being safely disposed of. So I understand there were some questions. I'd be happy to answer those. And if I can, I will find the answer and get back to you. So.
I will just say that our harm reduction program in Wise County operates out of our health department. That's just the way it was set up, which we like that set up because it gives us an opportunity to provide some other medical services and things to the clients while they're there. Also out of this program, we were able to determine the need for hepatitis C treatment, and we partnered with the University of Virginia to train our nurse practitioners to be able to treat people who actually have hepatitis C, so that it's another way that we're helping to prevent the spread of that disease within the community. In Scott County, we've been in conversations with a recovery program in Duffield, Revita, and the idea is that we will partner with them to provide this program, hopefully starting in January, if we receive funding through the state, which we've applied for. And our location would be our mobile unit that we would set up beside Revita. We were not considering operating out of the health department in Scott County because we felt like we had such a good partner and a good kind of end there with the Revita program in Duffield. And also it would be a way for us where if we were located there in Duffield, we could also be a little bit closer to serving individuals in Lee County as well. So that was our idea for expanding the harm reduction program in Scott County.
Funding from the program does come from state and federal level, as well as independent grants that we apply for. We do not use any locality funding to fund this program at all.
Do you have a success rate for WISE, for people going into treatment to get off of?
We do not, simply because we don't always know why people leave the program. We do have people we know have gotten clean and are staying clean. It could simply be they went to jail. We do see a little bit of a transient population, so they may come to the program a few times and then move on, and we may not see them again. So unfortunately, that's not something we're tracked. We don't always know why they stopped coming into the program.
We do have a peer recovery specialist that works in the program in WISE, and that we also put in the budget for Scott County. That's what their focus is. They talk to every single person that comes into the harm reduction program about recovery and about what options are available and about where are you at right now in considering recovery. So that is part of our program, is to talk to people about recovery. This person is not only available during clinic hours, but he's available after hours as well if they want to communicate or need somebody to talk to that's been in their shoes. So that's a really important part of the program as well.
Yeah, I understand. I understand in the health industry why there are not statistics like abortion. I've heard people quote statistics, which there are none, because providers are not, by law, do not have to give that information. So that is one thing it's not known either, and this is, similar. I mean, it's a health area, so I understand you're not.
And people go in and out of recovery too. That makes it, I think, a little harder to track. They might start recovery and then they're out and then they're back in. So it's a little bit hard of a statistic to kind of track. But we know how important it is, and really that's, our two main goals are to help prevent the spread of communicable disease, and then we want to be a connection for people to get into recovery when they're ready.
Is this going to happen in the county? Is there something we need to do, or here's the board?
So initially when the harm reduction program began in WISE, the process was that we did have to get permission from local government, from law enforcement. The law changed, I don't know what year that was. So now so now we no longer have to get permission, but we do want to get your support. We do want, to ask for your support with this program. We want to be available to answer any questions that you might have. We realize there can be concerns We do want to let you know that our participants have to sign an agreement form. They are educated the very first visit about what is required of them as far as conduct and behavior, how they can be dismissed from the program if they don't cooperate with those rules that are outlined. And also we are required to have a safety plan that we submit with our application to the state as well. So we realize that this is kind of a newer concept and that there are a lot of questions and concerns. So we do ask for your support, but we also realize you may have some hesitations and some questions, and we wanted to be here today to try to answer any questions you might have or hear your concerns.
However, that was, as she said, it's not required that you all had to do anything, to sign anything, to give us the approval to do it anymore. But out of respect and because you are our community partners and have supported us for so long, we didn't want to do anything without coming to you before it started and just do it, and you all hear that we've done it without sharing with you and coming before you and offering the opportunity to ask questions and discuss it and those kind of things. We wanted to be up front and not do
And you
anything.
have been. Has the Wise County Board of Supervisors approved this today?
Oh, they did.
Yes.
We had, that was one of the things before we started the program in 2018. We went to Dr. Cantrell and us. We went to the town council, the Wise County Board of Supervisors, the county attorney,
The sheriff's
Office in Wise
department.
and
There was a
Town of Wise Police.
Yeah,
as
there
well.
was a huge group. We had to actually have their approval because the law at that time, you could not implement the program without their approval. So we had to actually have written approval and all that at that point in time. And yes, we had that before we started the program.
We
You
have
wouldn't
met
have to have it, you wouldn't have to have it from us to do that in the county.
The law doesn't require that now.
I'll be
have-
honest with you, I think the folks in our county probably would not show a lot of sympathy for people that are doing that. I can see where a needle exchange program, when you see these horror stories, needles on the streets, I don't see it here, but you see it in other parts of the country where you're seeing that, and it's horrible. The kids finding needles and stuff. I can see the benefit from having that, but I don't know if the local folks here in this county would ever have any sympathy where, if they do something like that, it's on them. If they use a dirty needle, then the board here, they can, y'all's thoughts on it, I don't know, but
I can tell you that the litter control folks in Wise County and the people around there that have seen the program and seen the success speak positively of it because there's less needles that they find,
Right.
less things. It's keeping it off the street. Our program is a 1-for-1. Initially,
doubt
when they
it, yeah.
enroll when they enroll in the program, they get I think 30 needles.
We start, if they don't bring any, so we do a maximum of
Yeah.
30 syringes per week. If they don't bring any syringes in, they get a starter pack of 10 syringes, and they can build up from there. So it's a 1-for-1. So if they only bring us 10 in, they only get 10 back.
And before we implemented the program in Wise County, we had the opportunity to travel to Charleston, West Virginia. You may have heard some things about some of their, was it Charleston?
No, start with an H.
West Virginia. Yeah.
Okay.
Huntington.
Huntington. And we got to observe the program there, and a lot of what we took away from our visit actually were things that we didn't want our program to look like.
Right.
Programs that don't require that one-to-one exchange where they, it doesn't matter if they bring them back in and they just give out syringes, has more likelihood of seeing more syringes in the community than a program that requires those to be returned. And so we knew that that was very important, and that was one thing we made sure that we wrote into our program.
And
We
the
also
clinical
put a-
aspect of it, of where we do the program where, we counsel with them about the HIV and try to get them into other programs. And also, if it's a female and male, get them into other programs like family planning, because if someone's a drug addict, you don't want that person pregnant. And there's other programs that you want them enrolled in. And so, we do try to do it from a clinical perspective and
So we didn't want people to be able to
Yeah.
just walk in and exchange needles either. We wanted them to receive counseling and to receive health services.
yes, and try to keep it
what would help
health
if you track them too?
And regular testing.
So,
Yeah.
Your all thoughts are on the board.
I'm just wondering, are needles or syringes considered controlled paraphernalia?
They are, but if you have, in Virginia, there was a law passed where if you're using those as part of a harm reduction program.
So if they have this card, it's legal to carry the needle.
It is.
So
but
our
not that it
agreement,
is.
and this is the way we phrase it to law enforcement, when the syringes leave the program, they're in a baggie. When they come back to the program, we provide a sharps container. The syringes are in the sharps container. If the syringes are not in the sharps container that we provide, they are open game for law enforcement and for prosecution.
So as long as they keep them in the container,
Correct.
they're legal if they're in this program.
Yes.
If they're laying out on the seat or they're anywhere else, they're fair game for the law enforcement.
So it's providing this, it's making it, there's no reason to have the syringe if there's not drugs involved, correct?
Correct. I mean, we do
So
all,
if they've got if you're giving them permission to have the syringe, you know they're going to use, they're going to have,
They're going to use regardless of whether they have
Sure
a
they
clean
are.
syringe or not, so.
so aren't you helping them?
But that's what I said, they're going to use regardless of whether or not they have this clean syringe. So the clean syringe is preventing hepatitis C and HIV, preventing law enforcement officers from getting needle sticks, preventing them from tossing that needle out and potentially getting it there. They're going to use and inject whether or not they have this clean syringe. It's not.
It's just, well, I tried to come with with an open mind.
and it's not that we're saying to them that it's okay for you to use drugs. That's not our message either. Our message to them is that, the whole purpose of the program is just to help to prevent the spread of the communicable diseases and to try to get them into services. So it's not a way of saying we think this is a good behavior or that this is good for your health or good for our community, but what can we do to reduce some of the risk to our community because they are going to use whether they have a clean syringe or not.
Provided in your packet, the last 4 pages are some rates of acute hepatitis B and hepatitis C for the district. And when you look at those rates, fortunately the state rate's not on there, but we are about 5 times higher than the state rate for Hep B and Hep C in the district.
And here's the other part, if there's children around those, and I get where you're coming from because that's kind of where I was when this first started back in 18, and I get where you're coming from. If there's a child there, just like what Dan was talking about, we provide the sharps container because they know if they bring a dirty syringe into us, a used one, because they're going to use anyway, and they are using. But if they put that in that sharps container to bring it back to us, they're going to get a clean one. Whereas if they're not doing that, and there's a child in that home, or a child in that car, and they just throw that anywhere, and that kid picks up that needle, or if I'm riding in that car and I'm an innocent bystander or whatever, and I'm in that home, someone is in that home, or in that car, or wherever with them, or they just throw it out the window, and they have hepatitis C or HIV, and they've touched that needle, guess what? They're exposed. Whereas in our program, by putting that needle in that sharps container, knowing that when they come back to our program, they bring those dirty syringes back to us because they're using anyway. If they're a user, they're a user. If they keep it in that sharps container that we provide, they're going to get a clean one. Then that's an element of safety. That unless someone's getting into that sharps container and taking it out, you're hopefully protecting a child or someone else from just picking it up on the sidewalk or a playground or wherever they may toss it. In a home, laying it on the table, a user doesn't care. Whereas in the program, if they keep it in that sharps container, which is legal, and they bring it back, they know if they're bringing us back 10 or 20 or 30 dirty needles, we're going to give them that many clean ones. That's keeping it from laying around somewhere, potentially infecting someone else.
And back in 2012 and 2014, when we were seeing the hepatitis B outbreak, we tried to set up in communities to have people to come to us for testing, and nobody would come. So what we ended up having to do was actually just kind of go door to door and doing some of this contact tracing and doing some testing right there in the homes. And that's when our nurses would see, what was actually going on with their own 2 eyes with these dirty syringes in the homes, sometimes with children or sometimes not, or and the individuals just sharing these syringes, and then they develop things like skin infections and even heart infections, and then of course like hepatitis C and B and those kinds of things. And that's kind of what led us down the path towards the harm reduction program.
Hepatitis C can live inside of a syringe for up to 3 months. So it has a very long infectious period. And Michelle talked a little bit about Scott County, Indiana. That county is very similar to much of our district. They're very rural. A lot of their income was heavily based around coal mining. Coal mining dried up. A lot of poverty set in. Injection drug use came to that community. They ended up having a lot of injection drug use. A person brought HIV into this community where there was no syringe exchange and there was a lot of needle sharing. One person, they traced it back to 210 people in this county ended up with HIV as a result of injection drug sharing. So if you think about what 210 cases of HIV would do to Scott County, Virginia, as far as the healthcare needs, the specialty needs, medical needs, that's a very significant issue to consider.
And children, they'll pick up anything. If you've been around, they don't think, they're not always supervised, and they'll pick up. So if it's in a container, hopefully that keeps them from picking it up and becoming infected.
So how do participants learn about your program?
That was, when we first started the program in 2018, some of the clients, we kind of knew them from some of our other services. They come in for STI testing, and we didn't advertise. We kind of did a soft opening. In other words, we had one, I think we had one client come in, and we shared with that client, we had a comprehensive harm program, and we're doing the needle exchange. And that client, we provided syringes, did the counseling, and they spread the word themselves to each other. And after that individual left us and saw how the program worked and the services they were provided, and that they weren't arrested if they did what they were supposed to do, then I think the next time they came in there was 3, then 5, and then it grew to the numbers you have up there. We don't advertise. You don't have to.
We also do some outreach to doctors' offices when they encounter patients that they see that are injecting. The doctors can refer them to the program as well.
It's real. The program, it's out there. They're using, and it's word of mouth amongst them. It's.
I'll be honest. I just have a really hard time saying okay to drug use. Period.
It's
and I know that it does happen. I know that. I realize that, and I'm sure it goes on throughout the county. But oh my goodness,
more than we know.
And I'm sure about that. And I'm sure, but I'm sure our officer back here, I'm sure he's seen firsthand the issues that we're facing, that this board does not see. We're not gonna see things like that or for what you see, but.
We also took the opportunity to meet with the sheriff's office here in Scott County.
And that was gonna be my next question. Have you met with
We met with Bill before we met with Frida, actually. And they were very supportive, actually, because they see it firsthand. And
that was gonna be my question.
They were very supportive.
What was their reaction?
They were very much in support because they see it firsthand.
Well, I've got this may be a silly question, but I want to ask it. I come to you, I get the needles, needles, and I'm out driving and I run a red light. Policeman stops me and you advise them directly to tell the police that they've got a card they show them.
Yes.
And say, I've got needles in the car. Well, they stopped me for a traffic violation. I know there's needles in the car. Do I look for drugs?
That's really a question for law enforcement.
That's the prerogative of law enforcement.
Yeah.
So they could.
Yes.
So I'm not going to tell them I've got a card, I've got drugs, a needle. I'm just going to.
Well, I'm sure if the police officer sees needles spread out,
He's going to check it.
Yeah.
I'm just curious about that.
Well, I personally think it's a good program. However, I don't think the people I represent would go along with it. Because the facility in Duffield, I got some negative feedback on that when I was campaigning.
So we had, you know, initially when we started in Wise County, a lot of the same expressed sentiment. I can tell you that I do think we've gained the trust of a lot of the community over the years as they've seen the integrity with which that we run the program. And when we can share some statistics of some of the things that we've done and with the decline in, you know, the disease spread. And also, one thing we haven't mentioned as part of our program is training clients about using Narcan for overdoses. So there've been a lot of overdoses prevented and a lot of, you know, things that we've been able to incorporate into the program that I think have really gained the trust and buy-in of the community. So we hope over time that as the community sees the integrity with which we run the program and if they can see some of the benefits of the program, that people would be more supportive of it.
The key thing is, you know, we're not enabling because they're already using. They already they're getting needles, they're just sharing them. They're using dirty needles or they're using pins or whatever, and they're not responsible for those. They're throwing them, they're doing those kind of things. So you know, they're already using. They're already addicts. The goal of the program is to keep our community safe, keep the spread of disease from growing, and to hopefully get the individuals clean, meaning get them in a program to get them, like our peer recovery specialist who is a recovered addict for several years now, is to get them in a program to be recovered so they can be a recovered addict, be a productive member of society.
Well,
So,
one problem that one man expressed to me was the people coming into his community there.
They're
already there.
They're there, and actually
They are
they're here, and you may not even.
I will say
Some of them don't
you will be
always look like an
surprised,
addict.
yes,
Yeah,
at the people who come into the program.
yeah. They're already shopping in the grocery stores, and
We even see people who work full-time.
Yes.
You'll be surprised at some of the clients that are in the program. They don't always fit your stereotypical,
No.
what you think of as.
they could look like us today, and you not know it. And that's the other part of it. Is they're sitting in offices. They could be working right alongside you and you not know it. And we don't disclose that, of course. But they're there already.
Will
They're
they be
not always
coming here
stereotypical.
to get the needles? To
Pardon?
the facility downstairs?
No.
Here?
They will be at the Duffield, the Revita clinic that's already there, and our mobile clinic. We would just park there in the parking lot and take referrals.
Or
in
some of
mobile
the
unit.
clients that already travel to the WISE program may want to come down there because it's closer and that kind of thing.
Instead of having to travel to Wise.
The WISE program serves not only clients from Wise County, but clients from surrounding
Scott Lee.
counties. and-
Yeah, we've been serving Lee and Scott and City of Warren, even though it's based in Wise. They travel to
Have you done this in Lee County?
Pardon?
We don't have a program located in Lee County.
Yet.
I'm here from this side.
Well, from what everybody see, you know, I can see both sides. You know, I mean, there's pros and cons to both sides, but you know, I think we're dealing with two, maybe even three different types of people, users. You know, you've got users that feel like that they can make a change, and that's good. But you're going to have users that are abusers and who will abuse maybe the program. You know, that's the ones that I'm concerned about. You know, the ones that are already have it figured. You know, this is a way to keep syringes. And, you know what I'm trying. Just two or maybe even three different types of people.
I thought about that too when they changed the paraphernalia law. What I did in reaction to that, so our program, like I said, is very clinical, and part of that, you know, is based on regular contact with the person. I didn't like the idea of them coming one time, getting the card, and then never coming again, and not getting the testing, not getting the counseling, not getting that. So our ID cards have an expiration date on there, which means they come into the program every 3 months at minimum. So they do get tested every 3 months. They do get the counseling, so they do have an incentive to come back. And if they're caught with an expired ID card, again,
Fair game.
that's fair game, everything.
But the only true, well, I mean, except for the ones that truly want to
Yes.
be clean.
And it is tricky, because like you said.
Yeah, I mean, I farm for a living. I can buy a box of syringes. I mean, hundreds of them if I wanted to. But it's just those ones that would abuse it and would put our law enforcement in jeopardy. Of course, I'm sure they have protocols that they treat everybody as if they've got something, I guess. But I don't know. I sort of have mixed feelings about it.
It's a different way of thinking, and I started my career actually working with Frontier Health, so I was on the mental health treatment side of things. I worked there for 10 years, and I've been at the health department for 6 years now. So it was a way of having to change my own thinking as well, because it was all abstinence, 12-step groups, that type of thing. It's a little bit different when you're working with people in active addiction, like you said, who may not be at that mental point yet of realizing they even need to make a change. So you're absolutely right.
I just I was actually thinking this morning watching TV. I remember when I was just little. There'd be commercials on there, about the eggs frying in your brain and all that. You don't see that stuff anymore. You don't.
Sad we're having this conversation.
You don't see that preventative measures that may help stop somebody from doing that in the first place. But anyway.
We do some other programs in the schools. We have one really great program that we work with 7th grade students. It's not really focused on drugs, but the whole idea of the program is to get them to thinking about what they want for their future and what a positive future would look like, so they know that when they make certain decisions, those can have consequences that might prevent them from achieving what they want to achieve in the future. So there are some things like that we are doing in the school, and again, they're not detailed and specific regarding substance use or even abstinence and things like that, but we want them to think about what it takes to become a successful, prosperous person in their community and what things can kind of derail that. And so in prevention, we do some things like that in schools.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the book Dope Sick or read the book Dope Sick? There's a movie.
I read it.
Beth Massey talks a lot about this area, and Dr. Cantrell is mentioned in that book. She collaborated with that book and focuses a lot on this area. The reason I mention that is, when we talk about the drug addiction problem, Beth Massey wrote Factory Man. She wrote about the Burlington area, and she does a lot of research, and so she's pretty accurate. But in Dope Sick, it talks about the pharmaceutical companies targeted area because of coal mining and back pain and those kind of things, and they targeted doctors, and they wined and dined them and to write prescriptions, and people became addicted to pain medication, and pain medication led to other things, and it increased and it increased, and so they wrote more prescriptions and wrote more prescriptions and wrote more prescriptions. And I'm sure you kept up with the pharmaceutical company that just paid millions of dollars out because of one of those lawsuits. Some of the individuals that we see in this program that are educated and working individuals who still work and have jobs that you'd be very surprised are products of some of that. And so, I don't think anybody ever makes the choice to be an addict. I don't think you wake up just like that 11-year-old, you don't wake up and say, I think I'm going to be a drug addict today. I think I'm going to be addicted today. I think it happens, for whatever reasons, and it can be a loss of a job, a loss of can be a medical problem, it can be
Mental health.
divorce, mental health. We see a lot through this program.
They're making bad choices and bad decisions.
Over and over, and
But
the key is, one of the things is, as I said in my opening statement, and I'm gonna step out on the limb a little bit here, as a Christian, I really struggled. When we first started this, candidly, I really struggled. I took that. We're enabling. That's what I thought. And I prayed really hard. I was really struggling. I thought, am I gonna have to step away from public health? Because I had always supported everything we did, and I thought, man. But I thought, what better way to make a difference in someone's life? If we can save a life, if we can make a difference in our community and keep these dirty needles off the street, and keep a child from picking up a dirty needle and getting hepatitis C or HIV, or change one person's life, that they're no longer a drug addict, or they don't overdose and die, that we change their life, that we save that life and make a difference, then it's worth it.
And
It's
this
mission
is-
work every day. And I struggled. I'm a community member too, and I live not too far from our Wise County Health Department. So I get where you're coming from. I get it. But they're doing it. And maybe we're that middle ground intervention that can be the link. And that's what our desire is through and we take it from a clinical approach to change and be that change, to share with them what you're doing is destructive. You abide by our program, we'll give you this card, here's the sharps container. If you don't play by the rules, then our law enforcement can do and will do this. You come back in every 3 months, you bring a 1-to-1, we can refer you for Hep C, HIV, if you're ready for treatment, family planning, try to get them in programs. Here we take it from a very clinical approach. But at the same time, we have a peer recovery specialist who I can't talk to them about drug addiction because I haven't walked that road. But he can. And he was very successful prior to becoming a drug addict. He was very successful, and he's now working full time, and he's successful now. But he went through a transition time when he wasn't, so he can tell them what it's like. He can identify with what it's like to not be there. I can't. So he's that link. And so that's the whole goal with this. And so that's what we want to do. And that's been the success of the program. And I think that's why the community has embraced it so well in Wise County. Our law enforcement are very supportive. I go to church with a lot of them, and they have been very supportive of Wise County because they see the success of it. And when we met with the Scott County, our Sheriff Eads, and Mr. Starnes, Deputy Starnes, they were very supportive because they see the consequences. They arrest and they see a lot of this. We want you just to think about it, absorb it a little bit. I would ask you to pray about it. For those of you who pray, think about it. Take it into heart. It is mission work. I will tell you, public health is mission work every day. And that's what I tell my staff. That's what I tell them every day. You have to have a servant's heart. You sure don't go into it for the salary. You have to have a servant's heart.
Now, what really struck my mind was what you said. You listened to a sermon, and what your pastor said. You have to meet them, where they're at. I'm a pastor too, and before a person can realize that they need to be saved, they need to realize that they're lost first. And so I really appreciate y'all's passion about what you're doing and sharing with us the struggles that you had even with your faith of even doing this. But it's worth it if just one person is saved. I guess the problem that most here would have with it is just in supporting, we feel like that we're encouraging it, and we're really not encouraging it from what I'm understanding.
We have rules.
I think you're doing the right steps. You talked with the sheriff's department and talking with the towns and talking with the county, and it is a big problem in all of our communities. And I'm sure everyone sitting here, they know people with this very close to where they live at that are indulged in these problems, and you don't know how to reach them. But I'm glad to see something here, comprehensive harm reduction program. There's a lot of harm that's being done to individuals' lives and innocent lives. And all of you shared, you have a great passion about that. I respect that. And I would agree that maybe this is a decision we don't need to make today, but we need to really seriously think about it. And that gives us time to communicate with the sheriff and that sort of thing too, you know. Not to saying that you've said anything wrong, because I believe if you said he supports, you know, he supports, but that gives us time to think about it too and absorb it. And I respect that, because you're not here trying to push it on us. You're just trying to do something to, as the saying goes, to pull the feet out of the fire. Yeah.
I think it's a good idea where you take the bad syringes back, because that's getting them off the street or whatever.
Right.
Because a lot of these drugs, if you just touch one of those syringes, you'll overdose and hit the ground. I know some police officers that just looked at evidence and they touched it and they hit the ground and almost killed them. So if you're getting these syringes, dirty syringes, out of reach of people, I might walk by and just see one land, pick it up. Next thing I know, I'm on the ground, don't even know what's happening.
That's right.
I don't know how they take these drugs, but I know this fentanyl and stuff, it's awful. You've just got to touch it and you can overdose just like that. And I think it's a good idea that you're switching them out one to one. But hopefully they will figure out what they're doing to themselves. I mean, you can look at them, a lot of them's teeth's rotted out, they've got sores all over them, and stuff like that, and it's really a bad thing, and it's getting worse all the time, it's not getting better.
Well, and sadly, there's not a lot of resources for like long-term inpatient programs and things like that, and that's the other thing our area is really lacking in. But all we can do is do one step at a time and do what we can do, and and advocate for the rest of the services that are needed to help these people. But
Referrals.
One of our biggest barriers to getting people into recovery is the very lack of thing that Michelle mentioned, a long-term treatment facility or even a sober living community. People say, I know what I'm doing is bad, I want to change, but they don't have the resources to do it. If they go to treatment, they get themselves clean, they don't have the money to change their living situation. So they come back, their family uses, their friends use, and they go, I would be right back in with it. So why put in the work and the effort if all I'm going to see when I come back is that very thing, and know that I'm going to fail in my recovery? It's
they're
very
isolated.
hard.
That's the only friends they have, because their family has, they don't want anything to do with them anymore.
And
The only friends they had were their other users, and so now they've recovered and they don't have anybody, and people don't trust that they're truly recovered, so they're right back in. It's a struggle.
And I'll take what
Struggle.
kind of you said, we've talked about meeting people where they are. One of the core tenets of harm reduction is we meet people where they are, but we don't leave them there. So that's kind of that follow-up step. We're going to meet you where you're at, but we're not going to leave you where you're at.
We've got a lot of discussion here, we can take it up. I don't want to do anything to stop the program. But as far as supporting your vote, I don't think we need to do that. If y'all want to, we will. It's up to the board, but just leave it as it is. If it's going to happen either way, I don't think it would be perceived out in the community. You probably would, if you put it out there, you probably get a lot of support because there's not a lot of sympathy for people that are drug addicts. My dad's an alcoholic, and he's been dead for a long time. And I've never felt sorry for him. I've seen what he went through. I know what our family went through because of addiction. And so anyway, I don't know how much community support we would get on a needle exchange program here in the county. Located in Duffield, where I live, the other end of the county is 30 miles. I don't think people would drive to exchange needles. I don't think they'd drive that far to do it. And ones that I may know or may not know don't have the resources to even get down there. So, but anyway, I don't think we should do anything here to keep it from happening. I'm not so sure we should do anything to promote it. But, you know, your all thoughts here, should we not? That's my thoughts. Don't do anything. Thoughts?
Well,
I was just gonna say, anytime you're interested, you know, I'd be happy to come and provide.
I want to talk to the sheriff to get their
statistics and
feedback.
things
I believe what you said, but I would like to.
We'd like to also extend the invitation if any of you would like to visit our harm reduction program in Wise County. You're more than welcome to do that.
Thank you. Anything from anyone here? Y'all stop time. Just one vote, one person.
Well, I've shared my thoughts, and Darrell has, and several of you have. I think, from my perspective, you know, it gives us time to talk with the sheriff and, you know, and his folks, and gives us time to digest it and think about it, you know, more based on what you all have shared with us. All three of you have been very passionate about it.
Excellent presentation. It really
Yeah.
was.
And
We do appreciate you.
And it's really a big problem. And you're so right from what you said you heard from your pastor. You have to meet them where they are. And we have to get around this little problem that maybe we think that we're encouraging it. You probably think that from the get-go. That's what Mike, you were sharing, and Stephanie, and but what you've shared with us is they're doing it already, and they are. And so if you have it in your community, you know, what can we do to help? You probably have asked yourself that 1,000 times over. And when you say or you try to do anything, you know, you can't stop it. They have to have the right help. So at least you have some glimmer of hope, you know, through a program, you know, like what you have. I think we should at least think about it.
We
Table
come
it
back.
for our next
We
meeting.
can.
And give us
Well, I
time.
want to say, the location, like Mr. Mann, Chairman Mann was saying, a lot of people in Scott County may not go to Duffield. It may be a facility for Lee County, with it being in Duffield, than for Scott.
The Rabida clinic's there, and so they serve both Lee and Scott. And so that's why we chose
So
to
they
partner
do
with them.
have Scott County people
yeah.
too.
We have Scott County people that drive to Wise.
We do.
serve-
We have
yeah.
Madison County people that come to us, people
Yeah.
from Russell County. I mean, you'd be surprised. And
Yeah.
a lot of them don't have transportation, but they get rides with other people.
Well, I guess there's a perception, you know, that we have to deal with. You know, it's like the pain management, you know, clinics and things like that. And people get hooked on, you know, some different drugs there that's more harmful to their bodies, and it's really helping them. But here, seems like from you guys' perspective, there's some glimmer of hope, you know, of helping and trying to keep things safe. And what's a big plus with me is how the sheriff and how his folks feel about that. So,
Yeah. And you're talking to the Sheriff Easy.
yeah.
Let me give you a what if. I'm the user. My good friend Sally's going to Duffield. Can she do mine for me? Do I show up in person? Could she do it for me?
We don't allow third-party exchanges. You have to show up in person with your own stuff.
All right. I thought so. I want to be sure. But
Yes, like I said, we're really big on the whole wraparound of services, and if you're not coming into the program and not doing what you're supposed to do, then you're not taking benefit from the way these services are
That's
designed
another
to
thing we
be.
saw in the West Virginia program. They were allowing people to come in and get forever how many people. It wasn't long till that program had to shut down. But we saw a lot of things through that program that we thought,
We don't
no,
do
we
this.
are not doing our program that way.
I can't take 50 to Michelle and 50 to Dan,
Okay.
you know, on my way out.
All right. Good presentation.
Thank you.
We'll
Thank
take
you
it
for
back
your
up.
time, and again, I want to thank you all for your continued
Thank you.
support through the years. We really appreciate you all.
So
You
that's the
all are great
presentation really
community
was.
partners.
And what you all done here today has enlightened me a lot, and I'm sure the others too. Very informational and educational too, so thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right.
Thanks.
Let's take a 10-minute break.
Yes.
I call our meeting back to order. Next item is item 10. Need to ratify a letter of support for the Scott County Telephone Cooperative. Ms. Starnes, if you will explain.
I sent this letter out mid-month. It was needed before today's meeting, so everybody should have had the opportunity on your email to look at the letter. I did receive majority responses back to go ahead and send. The letter is in support of the National Telecommunication and Information Administration grant for Scott County Telephone that will provide middle mile broadband infrastructure in the county. So just need to ratify the letter of support.
And I'm sure you've seen it on your email, and like I said, the majority supported that, so we'll go ahead and put it to a vote here. Need a motion to support this letter of support for Scott County Telephone.
So moved.
All right, Ms. Agnew made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Tippett, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. And item 10B, Ms. Starnes.
This is to establish a lease threshold for right to use at the $10,000 level. This is a new requirement for GASB 87 that we have to do. All of our leases have to be reviewed and reported. Like I said, new audit requirement this year. And if we set that limit at $10,000, that will save us money from having to have all of the leases audited that would be below that $10,000 level. And that recommendation was made by a CPA firm that we look at a $10,000 to $12,000 threshold. So we're going to try to set that at 10 on your all's approval.
All right. So need a motion to approve this at $10,000, that threshold on that. Do we have a motion to do so?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Tipton made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bricky, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Next item is item 11. This is on the American Rescue Plan Act project. The committee has approved this, so Ms. Starnes would again go into detail.
Let me switch over once. We've received quotes to replace the Brevo door system. Ours is out of date. If something happened with our doors, we wouldn't have immediate access to shut those down in case of emergency. So this would upgrade our door system. We are looking at doing $7,456.84 with ARPA funding. And the yearly subscription fee is $4,636.80, and that amount would be paid through the yearly budget. But today's approval would be for $7,456.84 from ARPA to pay for the equipment. And we do get to trade in our old boards, so that saved us some money on the equipment cost.
And the door system being where?
It's all county buildings
Okay, okay. All right.
that has the electronic door system. So here, the courthouse, sheriff's office, Crooked Road in Duffield,
Okay. All righty.
911.
Okay. Do you have a motion to approve this amount?
So moved.
All right, Mr. Jeter made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Herron, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Next item is the item 12, the VACO annual conference meeting will be in Richmond in November, and Mr. Bricky and I have decided to go, and we need to vote. We need one of us to be able to vote. What's the right, correct terminology for it?
Right, correct.
Yeah.
One as a voting member and one as an alternate.
Okay. So y'all can select between me and Mr. Bricky how you want to do that.
I'll nominate Danny to be first.
I don't think you can. I've done it before, so I don't mind. If it's up to the board to do that, he'll be the alternate. I don't mind at all. So if we have a motion,
I'll make the motion to
All right.
nominate Mr. Mann as the voting.
okay, and and Mr. Bricky as the
And
alternate.
Mr. Bricky as the alternate.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
I'll second that.
All right. You are so kind. Ms. Hood, second.
Yeah.
All in favor, vote by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is the Black Gum Water Emergency Ending Resolution. I'm glad we're at this point. I know.
Hallelujah.
Huh?
Hallelujah.
Yeah. And I was talking to Darrell earlier about this. It seemed like forever getting that project done. They promised water in April, but there's so many issues, supply issues, and getting the right components. Well, I sent a video, somebody posted of the water running in their sink, and they were singing the praises because they got water up there. Ms. Hood has really been a huge part of this, getting this done, and it's all of us have. When we did that emergency, we did declare a local emergency back in 2020 and got the wheels rolling. I was talking to Darrell about it. Actually, it's really quick to get it funded and get it put in a little over 2 years is really fast for any water project. Darrell and Marshall both are on the PSA, and you all know how hard it is to get a project done. It seems like forever for those people. If you're without water a day, it's forever.
Yes.
They went over 1,000 days without water. And so anyway, to get this done, get it approved, the funding come quickly, but getting it put in took a little bit longer. So anyway, I'm just so glad. So that ending resolution, if you, Ms. Starnes, you want to address anything on that, you need to.
That would be Ms. Kegley.
Ms. Kegg, go ahead, Ms. Kegg.
I drafted a resolution for
You
you all to
did?
consider. I don't have anything to add.
Okay. All righty. This is a good resolution. Anyway, we need a motion to approve this ending resolution. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Ms. Hood made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right, Ms. Hagan, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So anyway, that is good. Next item is item 14 to this ARC contract agreement, which is Appalachian Regional Commission, I think is what that acronym stands for. This is on the Upper Cliff Mountain Grant Agreement to get it up and going. Ms. Starnes, you want to address that any further than that?
The grant agreement is on your tablet, and I also emailed it out and got majority vote back to approve in advance of today's meeting. The grant agreement is between Appalachian Regional Commission and Scott County. Department of Housing and Community Development will be overseeing the grant. It's for Upper Cliff Mountain Phase 2 water project.
Okay. All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Ms. Hood made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Bricky, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Next item is to ratify the signing of the Phelan Holler Grant Agreement. Ms. Starnes?
I believe that's on your tablet as well.
It is.
This grant agreement would be between the Board of Supervisors and DHCD for CDBG funds for the Phelan Hollow Water Project.
Okay.
And Lena Wisco will be overseeing that project for us.
All right. All righty, need a motion on this grant agreement also. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tipton made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Jeter, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. 15B, Ms. Starnes.
This is for authority to sign an interagency agreement between Scott County and Scott County PSA for the Phelan Hollow Water Project. I believe that is in your extra packets. It is.
Yes.
Okay.
Basically just says that the county will receive the CDBG funds from Department of Housing and Community Development and pass those to PSA, who will oversee the project.
The amount's 110,000, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, do we have a motion on this agreement with PSA?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Tipton made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bricky, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Next item is bookkeeping, Ms. Vickers.
Please appropriate $1,768.10 to Sheriff's Office Repair and Maintenance of Vehicles 31200-6009 for an insurance claim received and deposited at the Treasurer's Office. And that's all of the appropriations.
All right, do we have a motion on appropriation as described by Ms. Vickers?
I'll make a motion.
All right, Mr. Harris made a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Jeter, second, any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next item is transfers, Ms. Vickers.
Please transfer $4,240.37 from Capital Projects Munis Software 95000-8022 to Information Systems Capital Outlay 12540-8102.
Okay, do we have a motion on the transfers?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tipton made a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Jeter, second, any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is our county attorney, Ms. Kegley. Have anything? We got your all the stuff you've been involved in. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I don't.
Okay. Any comments or questions for Ms. Kegley? Thank you, ma'am, for what you do. Next item is from county administrator, so Ms. Starnes.
General fund balance after claims is $3,165,600.72. As you can tell on your comparison chart, we're just probably $160,000, $170,000 below where we were this time last year. As far as claims for the month, early claims totaled early claims over $5,000 totaled $362,083.30. The major one that brought that total up so much was Boyd's Construction that did our paving project in Daniel Boone. That was $192,800. Waste management, trash disposal for the month was $54,082.02. And Vacor, $42,097.75. So we had some larger checks come through that needed to be paid early. So that early set totaled $592,533.55. Current claims, as you'll see on the sheet, most of these are quarterly payments that were in the budget. So the total claims that need to be approved today is $923,726.73.
Which construction was for?
The paving project at Daniel Boone. That was through the recovery money, but it still shows up on our payments.
That was all the way up in parking at the fire facility, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's a lot of paving.
I haven't looked at it, but I heard it looks really good, what they've done. All right. Need a motion to pay the bills in a total amount, like you said, it was $923,726.73. Do we have a motion to pay?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Bricky made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Hood, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Ms. Starnes.
Under miscellaneous, I just want to give you an update on something from last meeting, which was the Fugate Hollow Lane road abandonment. The property owners came in and met with our mapping staff, and them, as well as Mr. Dingus, went out and took a look at the property, and as of right now, we're not moving forward with that request. So just wanted to give you an update on where we were at this time.
Okay. Anything else?
I know where that's at. Was there a particular reason not moving forward with
The property is up for sale, and the potential buyer is the one that wanted to abandon. So we're just, I think the property, correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, but I think the property owner was just going to leave it as is right now.
That's what I got from her looking at on the side after we looked at it. If the new buyer wants to proceed with having it abandoned, that's the route that we go.
And it's four-wheeler trail. I mean, it's not a drivable road.
Right, so we don't want to set a precedence, right?
Well, it would landlock three properties, so there's a lot involved in the process. At the time it was mentioned last meeting, we didn't know that there was 3 landlocked properties.
That's the point I was getting at.
And they're not local people. One lives in Bluntville, that's the closest. The other 2, I believe, are Ohio and North Carolina. So it would be more involved than we originally thought.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else on the miscellaneous?
That's all I have.
Okay. All righty. Get down to comments. Before we get into that, Ms. Hood and Mr. Daniels and myself was on the committee to the trash collection stuff. We went down to Washington County, Tennessee to look at their compactor station there, and it's pretty amazing what they do. I don't know where we're going to go with this, but they have a pretty nice facility. They have 5 of those in the county. Is that what he said, Bill?
They have 5 for 150,000 people.
Yeah. And so we got 14 sites for 21,000 people. Which we're a big county, and while we were there, and it was busy. He said that's nothing to what it is on Saturdays. He said they're backed all the way back out to the 4-lane people coming in. Imagine that many people with 5 sites in the county. So I don't know where we'll end up going with this, but eventually probably we'll need to go to something like that. I have no idea what it would ever cost. But anyway, we're looking at options on that. Bill, you want to add anything to that? I mean, I don't know. I can bring the board up to date on it. So
The committee is looking at options and looking at the future and what it means to have and operate Packer trucks and what that's going to cost in the future, and being able to have drivers to operate the Packer trucks and the current logistics that makes that a hard thing to keep going. So we're just trying to see what the best route for the future is for the county.
So we don't know where we're going. Ms. Hood, she was impressed with the cell tower that looked like a pine tree. And
We need that in Scott County. I mean,
we need cell towers.
so beautiful.
It was, and
It looked like a pine tree, and it just fit perfectly with
It
the
did.
forest and everything. We need those in Scott County. That is awesome.
I thought it was too. I was, when she saw it, I said, I seen the little tower things on top of it. I thought that's a cell tower, and he verified it. She asked, it was pretty neat to see that. It's there at Grace Station. You get a chance to go by and look at it. It's pretty amazing to see that.
That was the highlight of my trip.
See that cell tower looked like a pine tree, and it had the limbs, everything. It was, it fit right in with the landscape. And really going back to that, eventually, and with so many issues, and Bill talks about a lot of the Packer trucks, and so much hydraulics and so many things can go wrong. Even the guy down there talked about, back in the day when they were doing all the issues they have with those kind of trucks. But anyway, they have a good setup there. And like I said, I can't see us doing 15 of those or 14 of those in the county, but maybe some way, somehow we can make it work to where we can do it. And but eventually we got to do something. That's just my take on it. Anything else, Bill, you want to add? I just want to throw that in there before we
No,
get to
not at
comments.
this time. Thank you, sir.
All right. All right, comments, requests, recommendations. Start with you, Mr. Jeter.
I'm good.
All right. Mr. Tipton.
Just thinking all the staff for what they do, and Sally and Frida and you as board members, and us working together as a team.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Herron.
Had some conversations with some of the EMS people here in the county. Of course, we've talked about it several times about their being able to get paid by the insurance and all that. That's still a major problem. They are losing employees because they can go other places and make more. They're just unable to keep up with what is going on in other places. I'm afraid that I don't know the time period, but I'm afraid that is going to continue. It'll end up being a major problem for the county, because the county, the way I understand the government part of it, are required to provide these services. We are lucky to have what we do have. They're saving us, in my opinion, millions of dollars. Their increase on the fire side and the EMS side has not been increased in several years. I think we need to look at it. I don't know. I'm always lenient about, or conservative about putting on another committee. Sometimes I think we might have too many committees. But I think we do need to come up with something to look at this and get the real numbers, get what's going on. I don't want them to lose their being autonomous. They're their own things. Some people in the county believe that we fund them fully. We do not. We just help support them. But if something would happen, if the county would have to support them 100%, we're looking at millions of dollars. So I don't know how we need to move forward. I do think that there needs to be an increase because, just like Bill said about the truck drivers, we had to increase, the amount of pay for those truck drivers, and still that evidently is not enough, but because they can go other places and make more money. So however we need to handle it, if anybody has any ideas, because down the road, if it continues, we'll be the county as a whole will be in a major problem. We'll have to come up with the money. There's things called a fire tax. Every time I hear the word tax, I want to just fall over. But maybe that's something we need to look at, and I'm not saying add on to what's already there. Maybe there's a way to implement that into what we already have without raising the taxes. But that's something I think we need to look at. If anybody has any ideas, we need to look at it.
We were in Lebanon on a VACO conference, Region 12 and 13. Ms. Starnes and I were there. We were asked about our funding for the fire departments, and we fund a lot more than their county does. So yes, sir. Oh, you're the photographer. I thought you might be. Come on in. We'll be down here in a minute. But anyway, their funding was a lot less than ours, and they were wondering the amount that we pay the fire departments. But something we can look at. Thank you, Mr. Herron. Mr. Brickley.
Nothing for me.
Ms. Hood.
Well, of course, the highlight of my month was those under the emergency plan who got water on Black Gum. I met with them and at Lenowisco last week, and they're celebrating. They're very, very happy, and I'm very happy for them. And I appreciate everybody who had a hand in that, and the fire department taking them water all the time. That was wonderful.
And I'll say it, you may not, but you took water yourself to them. I mean, you actually transported water to those folks. That's very commendable on your part to do that. You took a personal interest in doing that.
Thank you, Bill. And another highlight was the Fannin Bridge dedication. It was just a beautiful ceremony. Mr. Dingus was there, and when it was to begin, Mr. Fannin being a railroad train enthusiast, a train went by when the ceremony was beginning.
That's amazing.
To start, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful ceremony. And the weeds have been cut, even on my little rural road. And I'm thankful
Those Twin
for that.
Springs kids did that for you,
I appreciate those kids at Twin Springs.
All right. Anything
That's
else?
all I have.
All right, Ms. Addington.
I appreciate the staff, and I love working with this board. I love working with Frida and Sally. I love that, I appreciate everything that they do. And the ladies here, Tina and Amy, and everybody that works on the staff here. Bill, you guys do a phenomenal job, so I don't have anything else.
I do want to thank the staff and everything. We get all this information in front of us here. It don't just happen
No, it does not.
automatically. Somebody has to work hard to get this in front of us and give us stuff to go through and everything, so I do appreciate that too. All right, we do have 3 items to go into closed session for. 4. 1, 2. This is not.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. All right. It's thank you. So we have 4 items going into closed session. We'll need a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Mr. Jeter made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bricky, second. It says on the motion by Mr. Jeter, second by Mr. Bricky, this board hereby is entered into closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711. First one being personnel, county administrator, real estate in Gate City, and let me back up. Real estate being A.5, personnel is A.1. 8.1 personnel, 8.3 is real estate, and then legal counsel is 7. All right, got it. And opioid litigation. All right. All in favor? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, we'll go into closed session, but we got something we need to do first.